Welcome to the first episode of Adrian Answers, where I tackle your burning questions about building apps, business, and everything in between. These are real questions we've gathered from our social platforms, so let's get to it. First, we have I Abhishek Official. Hey Adrian, great video. Really got me thinking about simple solutions. Many simple apps gain traction quickly, but struggle with long-term retention. What strategies do you think are most effective for ensuring these type of apps remain relevant and valuable to users over time, especially as new technologies and trends emerge? Great questions. I think a lot of apps, a lot of software, a lot of startups don't really retain their users, especially when they are building very complex solutions that doesn't really solve the problem of the user or their target users, right? So I will not be talking about this from the perspective of what tips and tricks you can use in order to retain your users, but I will stick back to the core concepts that you need to know, right? Which is going back to what problems are you trying to solve for your users? How are you helping them solve the problem in the simplest possible way where you are able to elicit this feeling or emotion that the user feel as they look at the solution? They feel like, ooh, I need this. When you have something like this, where you're solving a core problem, a really painful problem, users will be throwing money at you. So answer the question of what's in it for the user to use your application, right? So that's how you can really retain, really keep your users using your application. So you back to user retention, right? Long-term retention, because you can use whatever tips and tricks or hacks out there that can help you with the UI and UX to retain users. But ultimately, if it doesn't solve their problem, their issues, you still get the same issue, right? So that's the first question. Let's go to the next one. 123 Ackerman. Since you talk about messaging platform according to you, what is the best way to monetize if you create one? This goes into monetization. We do have a video on that on YouTube, so we'll probably link to it in the description or in the comments, right? So feel free to check that out or in our show notes. So what I would do in terms of messaging platforms, so there are multiple different ways to kind of do it, right? Of course, first of all, we have, we can just refer to basically the biggest messaging platforms in the world, right? We have WhatsApp, we have Telegram, right? The likes of these sort of application. How do they monetize, right? The easiest way to look at it is, let's say, for example, on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is free to use, yes, but where they may earn money from, right, is basically allowing businesses to subscribe to WhatsApp business accounts where they charge you for the API calls, where they charge you for the accounts and whatnot, right? So that's basically how you can monetize. One way to monetize messaging platforms, right? But of course, you can come up with different types of monetization depending on what type of users you are targeting. So messaging platform is pretty general, I would say. So I think ultimately it goes back to who are you serving, what do they need, and how can you creatively monetize the platform rather than just blindly following what other people are doing. But you can take inspiration from these platforms that are already doing it really well. I think the B2B model of WhatsApp is doing really well for them. So definitely look into something like that. All right, next we have MTino1. I'm looking at starting an ad tech app. Due to low funds, I'm sourcing from Fiverr. Well, I'm not too sure about that. So you might want to be careful with that. What would you advise, bro? I need to consult you for ideas before moving ahead. I am not sure what you want me to advise on. Um, Whether it's a good idea that you source from Fiverr. I think it is definitely a viable platform for you to get developers, but you need to be really careful when you are filtering developers from there. There's just a lot of developers out there, right? And you will never know who you're hiring until you actually have gone through all of their applications and really, really filter them according to your requirements. So ultimately, it's all back to how you're filtering them, how you're interviewing them, how you are checking the references of their past projects, right? But ultimately, if let's say you are still non-technical, then there's still a lot of things that you wouldn't know behind the scene. How are they doing their work, right? So that's really tough if let's say you are a non-technical founder, and if possible, try to get someone among your friends maybe, or even a CTO, or whoever that you can actually kind of work together with that is technical, so that he or she can help you with vetting these developers. So that would be the advice that I will give you. But another way to approach this is essentially raise fund. You mentioned you have low funds. So if let's say the idea is viable, the idea you really truly believe in the idea, then go ahead and raise funding so that you'll be able to approach this in a different way so that you don't actually need to go through platforms like Fiverr, right? Maybe if let's say you raise funding, enough funding, you'll be able to go direct to I don't know, agencies or something like that, right? Okay, cool. Next. Hi, Adrian. Great video. Quick question. How do you know how much money these SaaS make? Is there a software you use to tell the amount of revenue they generate? No, there's no. So I think a lot of these, um, I believe this comes from one of the SaaS idea we use. So a lot of these are either we have found information that the founders shared in terms of how much revenue are they making, or it could be just a smart guess, right, from us in terms of how much revenue are they doing, looking at what are they doing, what is their pricing plan, and then make a smart guess in terms of how many users they have, or potentially be able to convert how many users based on their traffic, right? So it's really just this is not exact amount, right? This would be just smart guesses in terms of revenue. All right, next. Hey, Adrian, big fan of your stuff here. I'm looking into starting my no code journey from scratch. I have a career in tech sales and want to start putting my ideas into reality as a side hobby or hustle that could potentially become a business venture or startup. I've been checking most of your videos, and with that, I would love to know your input on what would be the best no code tool that would be worth putting my time into. I have a natural inclination to enjoy design and visual on the front end. So I thought of learning Webflow first and then learning ways to convert that into an app with something like Whist plus Xano or Superbase tech stack. However, I'm seeing a lot of positive mention towards WeWeb, even within your video. Should I forget about Webflow altogether and go straight to something like WeWeb? I think ultimately this depends on what is your goal, right? You mentioned you wanted to go into no code, turn this into a side hobby or hustle that could potentially become a business venture. But I'm not sure if you would like to build applications or are you planning to build websites, right? So if let's say for me, when it comes to Webflow, I would probably lean more towards that is a tool for you to build websites, right? Of course, they are probably tools within Webflow that you can use, and something like or Whist that we covered before, right? To build applications, right? Pairing it with Xano and Superbase. But I would say that would not be my choice, right? Because I think there are way more specialized tools that you can use to build something of you know closer to an application rather than a website. I will probably focus more on Webflow if I'm planning to build websites only, right? And if let's say we are talking about building applications for web, we would probably go with WeWeb for the front end. Bubble would be one of them. Moment for web application, and then Flutterflow for mobile application. So those will be the tools that I would recommend. It's all in my no code tools video, so feel free to check them out as well. We'll link to it in the show notes or the comments. All right. So next, I'm a non-technical co-founder in a unicorn size space with zero direct competition. Ooh, interesting. How do you know that? And only minor indirect competition, and couldn't find a technical co-founder, so I'm building it in Flutterflow. I tried to learn coding, but I hate math. Well, who doesn't hate math? And my brain did not enjoy it. So I'm trying to build as much of my MVP as I can in Flutter Flow instead. Then maybe I can hire a dev to help me with anything that I get stuck on. Once I'm funded, I'll hire some full-time developer with a salary plus equity to continue building out and adding features. There's no question here. But okay, I think that's definitely one of the ways that you can go about it, right? Flutter Flow is a very robust tool, right? But nowadays with AI coming in, there are a lot of changes in terms of the development landscape. A lot of tools are popping up. Things like, for example, Bolt.new. We have Lovable, right? Things like that to build MVPs. So depending on what you are trying to build, you can actually start off with those. Since you mentioned you don't want to learn coding, right? So that means tools like Cursor or Claude Code is probably not something that you want to dive into because, yes, you can wipe code and stuff like that. But if let's say you have no idea what's going on behind the scene, that's not ideal, right? Because when you are building something, you need to know what's going on behind the scene, right? So that's why, I would say developers are still needed because you need someone who knows what's going on behind the scene to build these things and know that you won't get, trouble down the road, right? Because you built something that is not secure or, data leak and stuff like that, right? So that would be something that you can explore. All right. That's about it for all the questions. Um, Thanks for listening. Thanks for checking this episode out. And so we'll come back with more questions in the future. Feel free to put down your questions in the comment section or where else? Social platforms, yeah, whatever that is, whatever you can find Adrian Ching on, or even Upstack Studio if you want to. Just put them down, drop them in, and then I'll get my team to collect them and we'll answer them on the podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.